Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Checkpoint Coffee. Today we're going to be talking about our picks for Game of the Year. So it's almost the end of the year and it is about time when we make those selections. Now, this episode is a little bit special compared to other episodes because for the first time we have all of our reviewers together in one podcast. We have myself, Iham, Mika, Tahsin, Zubair. So it's like the Avengers. No, it's not, but you get what I mean. But still, it's great, it's exciting, and we get to take a peek inside each person's brain and see what game they love the most this year. So, with no further ado, let's just jump in reverse alphabetical order, starting with Zubair. Take it away. What is your game of the year?
My pick for Game of the Year this time around would have to be Resident Evil Village. Now, I know some of us are thinking, hey, is it really Game of the Year material? Because, it's a good game, it's a great game, but is it really out there? For me, that's what I thought too initially, but, when I played it a little bit more, tried it a few different ways, I kept appreciating more and more bits about the game. First of all, let's start off with the visuals. Visually speaking, Resident Evil Village is one of the more polished games out there that came out this year, both in the PS4 version and the PS5 version. So that department's good. Soundtrack is pretty nice as well. There are some memorable ones, then some forgettable ones, but for the most part, it's a good experience there as well. The story is somewhat predictable, and it has a few twists and turns, which keep it fresh, so there's a good balance there as well. And there's good level design, there's good gameplay mechanics, which are some of the stuff that are carried forward from RE7, which was in itself a very damn good game, and enough content in it, enough gameplay mechanics in it to make it feel slightly a little bit more fresh to keep it going. The mechanics are not overly complicated. They've gone with a minimalistic approach. Overall, it's a very clean and good layout that I'm seeing over there in the overall experience. The progression, like how the environmental shifts kind of cover many genres of the horror scene. We start off with the castle environments, which are reminiscent of the RE4 experience. Then we go to the woods, we go into forest environments, we go into haunted houses, that whole dollhouse concepts, which are coming from the PT, the Silent Hill approach. So they have tested a lot of horror genre types. Industrial horror is experimented as well, so that's cool as well. Different types of horror genres are tested, and it demands that you play in the respective fashion as well. And yes, towards the end of the game, I would say the end game would be the weaker aspect of the game. Turns a little bit more into a gun blazing gun fest later on. But still, for the most part, the game has retained a good pace of what we have come to expect from the recent RE7 approach. And I think Ethan Winters as a character has become more memorable in the whole franchise. The story concludes well for this particular character and everything that he is working through in this game. So I think it's been a good game overall. It has good replay value. Like the mercenaries mode is very tough. If you're platinum in the game, this is a very tough platinum. Trust me, it's gonna take you a good amount of effort and skill. And it has good replayable value in the sense that you can upgrade weapons, carry them forward, unlock new weapons. You can play in difficulty modes, speed runs. It's very entertaining. There's a lot more to do even after you finish the game the first time around. So I see it as an absolute win. Of course, and how can I not appreciate the big lady?
Okay, that sounds pretty awesome. Guys, did you play Resident Evil Village this year as well? We definitely reviewed it, didn't we? What do you guys think?
Yep, I've actually had the chance to play the game, and it was a very horrifying experience. I would say that it is a good contender for Game of the Year this year. It's very terrifying and yet a game that looks really, really good. So there's that. So yeah, it's a very solid pick, I would say.
And it has gaming's version of Nicolas Cage in it, right?
Yes.
I'm just gonna add that I wasn't able to play Village this year, but I was able to play 7. And if the
Hmm.
game is building on the foundation that was 7, then yeah, this is an absolute must pick.
It did build on 7. It took the best elements of what worked in 7 and they carried it forward.
Uh, I didn't get the chance to play Resident Evil 8, but I will say that in this game, the graphics and the sound design was really impressive.
Hmm. And I gotta say, like, there was a time when it looked like Resident Evil, the franchise, was not doing so well. Probably after 6, but I would say that it's safe to say it's safe to say I think that Resident Evil is back.
Without a doubt.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, now let's move on to the next item on our list, Tahsin's Game of the Year. So, what's it gonna be?
This year has been a good year for JRPGs and I feel like RPGs overall, but for Game of the Year, I'm going to go with Tales of Arise. We've had some really good JRPGs like Persona, sorry, not Persona, Shin Megami Tensei and Monster Hunter,
Wow,
but
don't make that mistake again.
yeah. What I like about Tales of Arise is that it's a very feel-good JRPG with a very good cast, and they have a really good chemistry with each other. And there's options where, in certain sequences, where you can get to actually spend time with these characters, and they have really good chemistry and back and forth between them, and you can actually see that they are growing as the game progresses. Like these are not the same, like these are the same characters, but they learn new things, they actually grow as characters, and it's very nice in that sense. It's a very good JRPG, and it's also like very enjoyable when it comes to the gameplay mechanics. It's very fun to play, and the voice acting is also pretty good. So why I'm going with Tales of Arise for Game of the Year is because for me, it's just a very feel-good JRPG that looks good, has a good story, really good characters with an excellent cast, and yeah, why not? Tales of Arise is my pick for not JRPG of the Year, Game of the Year.
All right, that's pretty awesome. What do you guys think? Have you guys tried Tales of Arise or And also, Tahsin, I want to ask you this question. Do you need to have played any of the other Tales games to play this one? And if you haven't, is it going to affect your experience?
Oh, that's actually a pretty solid question, Moni, because I'm not a guy who's played Tales series before. When I
Hmm.
was a bit younger, I tried to play some of the Tales games, but I really couldn't get into it. So this is actually my first experience with a Tales game, and it's a very good entry if you are a newcomer to the series as well, because you don't really need to understand what's going on with the other games, because this is its own standalone game.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's no connection with the other games as well.
Yeah, each entry of the Tale series is a separate thing, but it does make little callbacks. Like, I know that, and this is slight spoilers, so if any of you haven't played it and want to play it, just want to experience it right now, you can tune out for like 5 minutes. But they are, okay, let's call it 1 minute, just 1 minute. And
Yep.
and there are a couple of characters who are actually returning characters from the other Tale series that serves as secret bosses of the game. Other than that, there is very little relation to the other Tales games.
So you can say that it's kind of like how every Final Fantasy it's its own thing, but sometimes you might have like a returning boss, like Omega Weapon, something like that.
Gilgamesh.
It
Oh
is
yeah,
exactly
definitely that
like
guy.
that. It
I'm
is.
actually looking forward to seeing if one of my favorite characters is there as a secret boss.
So I gotta ask you this as well. What's the story of the game about, really? What's arising?
The story of the Tales of Arise is basically about, in layman terms, in a big FY, a big TLDR, let's say. A big TLDR of Tales of Arise is that there are people who's getting oppressed by a certain civilization, a certain group of people, and these people are slowly, resisting coming to power and defeating their oppressors in a way. So that's the most basic way I can describe Tales of Arise.
So it's kind of like rising up against oppression, sort of thing, right?
Yeah, it's just Tales of Arise. It's in the
Oh,
name.
that's true. Pretty cool. Now let's move on to the next person on the list, and it's going to be Mika. So, what is your pick for a game of the year? We've got a horror game, we've got a JRPG. What's next?
Now, in this case, we're gonna go with the 3D platformer. And my pick for game of the year is Psychonauts 2. Uh, Before I begin talking about it, like, has anyone here ever played Psychonauts? Even the
I
first game?
I have. I love Psychonauts. I think it's one of the weirdest platforms
Ages.
I've ever played.
It's been ages.
Love that game.
All right, that I am in good company because most of the time when I ask people whether they played it, it's been a negative. But just for the sake of everyone that's listening, let me just give you a rundown of what's happening. You basically play as a kid who's a psychic. He used to work in a circus along with his whole family. He ran away from the circus to join a psychic summer camp in the first game. And then you somehow end up actually stopping a world ending doomsday plot that's basically a dentist that's trying to put brains into tanks. And the story for the second game actually picks off where this left off. In between, when they basically rescued the head of the Psychonauts and they're coming back to the main Psychonauts base. Everything is just going awry. Like, they found the boss, but he's not waking up, and now they're trying to find out what's happening, who kidnapped him, and they basically found out it's a group of people called the Delusionists, and it's up to Raz and his ragtag bunch of misfits to find out what's happening, why they're up to, and they're all doing this. The basic concept of Psychonauts is that the levels are based on people's minds. So what they're basically doing is going into each person's mind. And that's where the game shines best. Because you're entering the mind of a person. You're actually getting to grips with each person's personality, even the collectibles in there are based on their own experiences and everything. The level design, everything is based on the characters. The gameplay and the story is so well integrated. It's really a must play for the story alone, which is why I'm trying really, really hard not to give away spoilers here.
All right,
And
that sounds really awesome. So it's basically kids doing Inception.
pretty much. And the one thing you have to understand is that unlike the first game, this is very much a story about Raz himself. It's very much
Mm.
a personal story for him and the characters involved, which makes it all the better. Like, Raz is still a 10-year-old kid, and he's coming to grips with actually having these psychic powers, and the people around him are acting as mentors and teachers and figureheads. It's and this is something to eye him. It's actually a very, very good game that we might want to consider for a future return of our mental health series.
I will actually consider looking into this. I haven't actually played Psychonauts. More like I haven't even actually heard of this game.
Yeah, that's unfortunately
Yeah, if I
the most.
remember correctly, the last one came out around early 2000s or late 90s, right? It was the PS1 era or the PS2 era, and there was
Late
like a
2000s, I think.
there was
Yep.
a there was a long gap, and then now we finally have a sequel.
Yep. The development of Psychonauts is another story in itself. But I can just tell you this. The first game took an entire console cycle. Like, it began production at the start of the console cycle and finished barely near the end. The second game faced the same problems, but was saved by Microsoft, of all people, who came in and said, "Take your time, take your money, just do what you need to."
I'm so
And that
glad. This series is too creative to let die, I think. It's one of the most creative platformers I've ever witnessed, and to know that there's a sequel and it's only better, bigger, probably be more beautiful is just such a good feeling.
Yep. I'm so glad it's actually released. This is definitely my pick for this year. And I recommend everyone, if you're listening out there, go play it. Even if you don't know what it is, pick it up, play it.
Do you need to know anything about Psychonauts 1 to play it? I mean, can you just jump in and kind of gather everything from context?
You're giving a bit of a recap, and characters will constantly remind you of the history of what happened, so you don't need to play one. But if
Mm.
you want to, it's really cheaply available on Steam and most other platforms right now. But you don't need to. Just feel free to jump in.
All right. Speaking of jumping in, and now it's going to be my turn. I'm going to talk about my Game of the Year pick this year. And just like Tahsin, it's going to be a JRPG. And specifically, it's going to be Shin Megami Tensei 5, right? And why did I pick this game? Tahsin picked Tales of Arise because it's a really feel-good, comforting JRPG with really nice characters who really get along well. I picked this one because this is a JRPG that's like eating your vegetables. It's gonna slap you in the face several times until you get good and figure out how to engage with its systems. Its demons are gonna lie and trick you every time until you figure out how to really navigate the systems. And it's kind of like, to me, JRPG mechanics distilled to its most fundamentals, where like the fighting, the items, the kind of Pokemon, like, monster collecting and all of that aspects just so sharpened and developed to such a level where you can really mess around with it and get some great results. It encourages you to explore. But Shin Megami Tensei being what it is, this particular game really struck to me as Game of the Year because of how much the game has jumped forward in its own franchise. See, previously a lot of these games had like the first person perspective or perhaps a very simple character running around in very blocky dungeons, and they're all very limited areas. And when you're exploring the quote unquote world map, it's just a map with like a little kind of icon running around. It's not really even a person, right? And it is its own visual style. I can appreciate it on a level, but when they went to this game, they decided, nah, we're gonna get rid of the old kind of dungeons and we're gonna make larger open areas. Now, I don't mean they're open world like Breath of the Wild or anything, but they are very meticulously designed and layered in such a way where you feel like exploring is fun. These are areas which you can traverse for a long, long time, encountering different kinds of demons and puzzles and most interestingly, side quests and all kinds of items as well. It makes these worlds feel a lot more alive than this series ever had. Like, if you're running through a desert and you look up and you see a gigantic dragon that you saw from Persona 5 fly over your head, and you're like, oh my god, I gotta fight that. I want that demon. Like, that is the experience that this game provides. And it's really wonderful to play in that way, just exploring. And as I mentioned before, the side quests are really great as well because you're doing side quests for demons and you get to see their personalities, their likes and dislikes very much through these interactions. Not to say nothing about the excellent battle system. Shin Megami Tensei series always has had a pretty cool battle system where you can actually tactically get more turns than the enemies to try to get an advantage over them. But here, it is just it is tweaked in a bunch of ways that both make it a little bit more accessible to newcomers, but also make it more strategic for people who know what it is that they're doing. So you could be severely underleveled, but with the right application of your abilities or perhaps defenses, you could end up slaying bosses that are way, way, way stronger than you. So I love this game. I feel like this is the moment when Shin Megami Tensei really took the forward leap in a massive way, and probably would result in more people getting to know it, getting to love it, and getting to play this game. People do say that this game, along with Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, are one of the 3 pillars of JRPGs. So it's good to know that this game exists in this quality in the modern age. So that is why it has got to be my pick. And you don't need to play any of the other games to play this one either. 5 is like Final Fantasy, just jump in. You're good.
All right, so that sounds like really interesting. So this is like the darker, older brother of Persona 5 who's interested in Pokemon, but his Pokemon are all Digimons.
Yep, and they low-key hate you.
Wow.
That's
I've
a
had
good sell.
experiences, right, where like my entire party is full and I try to like recruit a demon, and the demon will be like, you have too many friends. And the next time I meet the same demon, it'll be like, oh hey, it's that guy with too many friends. What's up, dude? It's crazy. It's wild. It's really funny. Like, it adds so much personality. And think about it this way, guys. All of the enemies that you fight in the game, aside from some few bosses, are literally recruitable party members. You can recruit them. You can get their entire moveset, their entire abilities, and fuse them to make even stronger ones. So it's like a really efficient use of assets, along with it being like a really nice way to add some character to these monsters.
Yeah, I think it's been a good year for SMT series as well, because we've had the SMT Nocturne remake, and then we had the HD collection as well, and now SMT 5. So
I actually played Nocturne this year and reviewed it. It was one of my favorite games. I really loved it. Just completely fell in love with it. After it stopped punching me in the face. But still, I still recommend it to people who really love JRPGs and want to feel like a tactical genius after you figure out that amazing strategy to just completely depower a boss. It's just an amazing feeling. That feeling when the plan comes together. It's just all about that.
It's all coming together now.
Yep, pretty much.
Nice.
And now, unless anybody wants to say anything more, shall we move on to Iham? I would love to hear what your pick for Game of the Year this time is. What's it gonna be?
I'm someone who doesn't really play first person games, but this year I tried one game which is Deathloop, and that is my game of the year pick. So, Deathloop is a game which is made by Arkane Studio, which also happened to make one of my favorite games of all time, which was Dishonored. Dishonored for me was really good because not only the story, the mechanics was also good, but it also uses architectural elements as a gameplay mechanic, as you have to transpose the building in order to get to those places. And Deathloop actually was made using the foundation of Dishonored. So in Deathloop, you can actually tell the lot of the story in just around 8 words, which is you have to only kill 8 people before midnight. That's it. That's the entire plot of the game. But the thing is, in this game can be described as a crime thriller, Metroidvania style, and somewhat of a roguelike event. In that sense, what I mean is that uh, so you have to kill 8 people. So in you have to kill 8 people, and those 8 people won't be in the same location at the same time. They will be in different locations in different time zones. So in this game, there's a mechanic where there are 4 different time zones: morning, noon, afternoon, and night, and those 8 of them won't be in the same time zone. It will be in different time zone in different locations. So you have to actually go study them as a crime drama, get to know them, and somehow get everyone to the same place so you can kill them at the same time. And there are also interesting mechanics that the developers have included in this game even. One of them would be, so in this game, there's, as the title says, there's a loop in this game. When you die, you will come back to the beginning of the time loop, which is at the morning time, and you will wake up. When you wake up, all of your inventory is lost. So that means no more weapons, abilities, nothing is there. So it allows the player to do a lot of experimenting, to use different weapons and different abilities to go and use, and to use different playstyles to complete the missions. And in this game, one thing I actually like about this game is this is one game where 1960s culture is really represented. The fashion, the architecture, the technology, the people, everything is really nicely expressed here. And I would say the voice acting is really good in this game, and the dynamic between Colt, which is the protagonist, and Juliana, which is somewhat of an antagonist. I mean, she's trying to kill you. I mean, that's her main job, to stop you from killing those 8 people. The dynamic between those two are really good. So that's why I will pick Deathloop as my game of the year.
I gotta say, Deathloop, right? From the very beginning, everything I've seen about this game I've loved. It is, as you said, it is developed by Arcane, so it does look like it has that Dishonored feel where you navigate the place through like climbing up to places and teleporting and all that stuff. But more than that, just the time loop thing, the fact that there's someone out there hunting you, like this whole resetting and being able to try different playstyles without that many like consequences. It's just phenomenal. What a great mix of ideas. What do you guys think?
anything like Dishonored or improving on that, then I'm game. I mean that's definitely a solid pick, solid pick, and a solid game. That's for sure.
Yep. Just as I have mentioned, it's quite interesting because they are really experimenting with this time loop formula in Deathloop, and from what I've seen and heard, it works really well, and the game mechanics are really good. And it's one of those games that I've been trying to get into. It's one of those games that's on my wish list, and but right now it also seems to be the right time to purchase it because Deathloop is currently on sale on all the digital platforms. So if
Oh
you
yeah,
want to, yeah,
be sure
if
to
you
check out
want,
our game deals every Tuesday. Isn't that right?
yeah, if you're just missing out on the game deals, you would not know. But Deathloop has been on sale for a while, and if you are interested in picking out this game of the year pick, just go ahead.
Don't,
It's a solid pick.
don't tempt me, Tasin. I might just buy it.
I was Zubair, let me tempt you. So
Mm,
in this game, I actually forgot to mention really important thing. So in this game, there's actually a time limit
mm,
similar to Majora's Mask, I think. So
mm,
I remember I told you about loop, right? So in
mhm.
Right.
this game, you have exactly till midnight to kill all those 8 people. But
Right.
if and if midnight comes, the loop starts again. All of the 8 people, oh, not every eight. No, I mean, if
When
you have
when the game starts again, basically you had to do it all over again. Then.
yes, you have to do everything again. You have to kill all those 8 people again. So you have to. So there's a time limit before midnight. That's a really important thing.
So, my understanding of this is that either when you are killed or when the time goes up, you're just back to the start again.
Yes, and those 8 people you have to kill, they will come back alive.
So it's like Cinderella. Like you have until midnight to do everything. So I'm a very heavily armed Cinderella.
Yes,
So, like, you can go about doing this in any order you want, taking out different people, which will cause different effects, I assume.
yes.
This
And
sounds
when
like a chaotic pinball machine of fun, dude.
This is sounding interesting. All right. You know what? I'll give it a try.
And if anybody else out there wants to give it a try as well, don't forget it. It would be Deathloop. And just to reiterate, it's going to be Resident Evil Village for Zubair, Tales of Arise for Tahsin, Psychonauts 2 for Mika, Shin Megami Tensei 5 for myself, and Deathloop for Iham. And if you guys have any thoughts on what you like the most out of the games that came out this year, what your personal Game of the Year picks are, please let us know in the comment section below. And once again, thanks everybody for joining, and hope that you guys got to play some amazing games this year. You have anything to say before we sound off?
Yeah, I think it's quite a good selection we've had for Game of the Year this year, at least from us, because we've had a horror game, we have a 3D platformer, and we have two JRPGs, huh? And
and a
then
first person
Yeah.
game.
yeah, and a first-person shooter.
I want to
Yeah,
Oh,
say
and
this. I want to say this that picking game of the year is never really an easy thing because it's to everybody's taste. So any
Hmm,
of the games that we mentioned here, I would say are winners in our books. You know, all of them. So if you can try them all out.
definitely. And in the meantime, thank you very much for listening, and we hope you have a great day. Bye bye.
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 Bye bye.
bye.